Hey, Hamilton, how we doing, bud?
Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome to the final day of OMNI. I'm very excited to see everyone's work. I know you're doing live presentations, so best of luck with that. We're excited. We're here to support you, so take a deep breath. Before we get started, though, I'd like to go over our community expectations. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. There will be a lot of screen sharing and stop sharing. So can we see this okay? Yes,
That's
okay,
great.
thank you. The head nods help me. All right, so some of our community expectations are: know that this is a safe space meant for learning, practice patience with yourself and others, speak from personal experience and avoid speaking for others, give everyone a chance to speak, never interrupt others, and if you disagree with someone, ask questions to understand their intent or offer alternate interpretations, and do not repress other people's perspectives. Today we'll treat everyone with respect, dignity, and kindness, and I know it won't be an issue, but it never hurts to go over it. So before we get started, I just want to give the presenters a little bit of an idea of what's going to happen. So I'll introduce you, you'll take it away, do your live presentation, and then if you feel like the flow is going well, you can go right into your Q&A. If not, I'll jump in and facilitate that for you. And just feel free, I'm sure we'll get a lot of great questions today, so pick on whoever you like, whenever you'd like, and I'll always be there to help you out in case I feel like things are getting a little quiet. But are we all good with the presenters? Any questions for me? No? Okay. Again, best of luck. Let me stop sharing really quickly. Oh, I did. Okay, perfect. So our first presenter is Jessica Hardin, and of course her mentor was Professor Lynn Miller, and the title of her presentation is Laughter, a Means of Survival. So Jessica, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
All right. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect. Before we begin, I would like for everyone to think back to the last time where you were laughing. Were you laughing at a joke that someone made, or a scene from a movie, or even just laughing spontaneously with your friends? It may seem like a basic everyday behavior, but truthfully, it is much more complex and has many physiological benefits that will be discussed today. Laughter induces important physiological changes in the brain and body and has adaptive value as a mechanism of social bonding. Laughter is a mechanism that in and of itself is quite complex and has many definitions. Laughter can be defined as a seizure-like process that is triggered by not only a humorous cognitive stimulus, but it can also be caused physically through plays like tickling. It is the physical reaction that has been characterized through specific facial expressions, contractions of various muscle groups, and often has a distinct and repetitive sound. There are also 5 different types of laughter, including genuine or spontaneous, self-induced, stimulated, induced, and pathological. Not only can laughter be experienced individually, but there is also social laughter, which impacts a widespread amount of people. One specific type of laughter that will be the main type for this presentation is spontaneous laughter. Spontaneous laughter can also be referred to as real laughter and is emotionally driven and involuntary, which is subject to neuromuscular constraints. It is seen readily through basic attempts to produce unnatural vocal variants, such as speed changes or alternating vowel sounds. Studies have found that people are able to differentiate between real and fake laughter, as spontaneous laughter includes rapid oscillation, which is carried out by the intrinsic laryngeal muscles. Due to the uniqueness of the laryngeal control mechanism to this specific type of laughter, it is extremely difficult to mimic or reproduce, which allows for oneself to pinpoint variance between true spontaneous laughter and fake. This specific experiment included 20 male and 43 female participants between the ages of 17 to 23. They were given sets of spontaneous and fake laughter samples and were asked to differentiate between the two, and the results found that the overall accuracy was significantly high. The results from the study align with the researchers' understanding that spontaneous laughter has a higher pitch and a higher rate of unvoiced intervals per call, which correlated to the judgments of it being more real than fake. Spontaneous laughter also signals positive affiliation associated with endorphin release and is a vocal warning that one is not planning on attacking, as it triggers muscle weakness, which shows vulnerability in such situations. Spontaneous laughter is also consistently present throughout every culture and age and has been seen as early as 5 weeks old. The functions of laughter are also universal. However, the precise functions occurring within different social contexts determine the very types of laughter. As well, the amount of laughter exhibited by the younger population has been found to decrease with increasing age, as the average for young men and women under the age of 24 was 22.7 times per day, while men and women over the age of 60 was 11.7 times per day. One interesting thing to note is that researchers found a prominent decline in the evenings, as the rate of laughter was half as much as the average, which has been theorized to be caused by going to sleep earlier. There is also a lack of social interaction in the evenings for older populations, and since the most laughter occurs within the presence of others, this would explain the decline in laughter as the day progresses for elderly populations. Although laughter plays a major role in human nature, it is not unique to humans. The only types of animals found to be able to produce laughter are rats and primates, including chimps, bonobos, gorillas, and orangutans. A study regarding the laughter of rats found that vocalizations above 50 kilohertz, which is a measure of frequency, indicated the presence of laughter. 26 male rats were tickled for 30 seconds and using ultrasonic vocalization detector microphones to record the ultrasonic vocalizations. And they found that when tickled, the average number was 60 kilohertz, and the average for the non-tickled group was 5 kilohertz. Primates have also been proven to laugh, as seen in social interactions such as play and tickling. When both non-human primates and humans were tickled, they both let out vocalizations deemed to be laughter. As well, when laughter is produced, it triggers different sections of the brain, like the endogenous opioid system, which releases endorphins to help regulate and relieve pain levels. There is also a release of hormones such as oxytocin, which is released when the laughter is produced, therefore showing that the behavior involved is what impacts the biology. There have also been long-term effects of laughter, as it not only facilitates stronger social bonds in regards to positive hormone releases, but also reduce stress, which leads to an increased life expectancy. Laughter has been found to activate quite a few neural systems involved within both the production and perception of laughter, as measured through neuroimaging. The Coordination Center for Laughter involves the periaqueductal gray, which responds to internal stressors like pain, and external stressors like threats, as well as the upper reticular formation, which promotes arousal and consciousness. These sectors control all the changes in vocalizations, facial expressions, and respiration, and are also made to receive excitatory inputs from different areas, such as the cortical sites in the frontal lobes and basal temporal. The basal temporal and frontal lobes are important for expressive languages like laughter and voluntary movements. In terms of the production and perception of spontaneous laughter, the most prominent section was the lateral premotor cortices, which is responsible for the sequence of repetitive movements like laughter. Therefore, laughter is a complex process that activates varied sectors of the brain in order to be produced. Laughter also makes you feel good because it causes the release of natural opioids in the brain. As laughter has been known to support long-term relationships in humans, the post-impacts of social laughter have been found to induce endogenous opioid release. Natural opioids are chemicals in the brain that act like opioid drugs by helping our bodies control pain. The endogenous opioid system is a pain-relieving system that releases endorphins to help regulate pain levels through the experience of relief and overall improved well-being. A study involving 12 male participants quantified laughter-induced opioid releases by having them spend 30 minutes alone and then 30 minutes watching comedy clips within a social setting. Social laughter is associated with more system activation, which is what predicts how much socially laughter is elicited. Using whole brain scan analysis, social laughter increased the endogenous opioid release during the tests with an increased mean rate of 1.04. The specific brain structures that were activated within the release include the thalamus, anterior insula, and the caudate nucleus, whose job is to process arousal and rewards. This proves that the effects of laughter impact sections of the brain responsible for positive sociability levels, therefore boosting positive social interactions. Laughter, specifically spontaneous, has been found to decrease stress hormones such as cortisol and dopamine and increase positive hormones like oxytocin. A study performed by Burke and researchers found that a study group of 10 experimental subjects, after watching an hour-long humor video to induce mirthful laughter, had cortisol and dopamine levels decrease from 240 at baseline to 90 a half hour after finishing the video. In comparison, the control group's cortisol levels decreased from 390 at baseline to 270, also a half hour after watching the humor video. Serial blood samples were used to measure these levels and found that mirthful induced laughter decreased cortisol and dopamine in both the experimental and control groups. This means that the spontaneous laughter experience reduces levels of cortisol and dopamine, ultimately leading to the reversal of neuroendocrine and classical stress hormone responses. Another study regarding cortisol levels tested healthy men and women from IT companies between the ages of 20 to 50. The general method was simple, as they performed basal level tests in the subjects, then did 7 sessions of laughter yoga, and then concluded with the post-assessments. In terms of the post-assessment, the researchers measured the results utilizing polygraphs, electrocardiographs, electrodes, and ELISA kits, which are used to quantify cortisol levels through plasma samples. The resulting cortisol levels were significant, as the pre-test groups were at 0.25 and the post levels were at 0.18, which was a 28% decrease. Similarly, the control group's pre-levels were at 0.24 and the post levels were at 0.20, with a 16.6% decrease. In conclusion, laughter holds the amazing ability to reduce stress hormones like cortisol, which can lead to severe negative impacts on one's body. Laughter also causes a surge of positive emotions by triggering a release of oxytocin upon production. Oxytocin release has been found to have a high prevalence within mother-infant bonds and the perception of infant laughter. A study has been found that oxytocin may be able to enhance the prominence of infant laughter through differing neural circuits, in turn encouraging sensitive responsiveness to infant laughter. This increase in social bonding also increases survival, as it promotes parental care and proximity. Researchers investigated caregiving responses as well as psychological responses to infants by performing psychophysiological analysis, interaction analysis on participants to see if oxytocin impacted functional connectivity within the amygdala upon hearing the infant laughter. There were 50 adult male and 134 female participants involved in the study, and approximately 40 minutes before starting the fMRI data acquisition, the participants used a nasal spray that contained either oxytocin or placebo for the control. They used the control study to examine the effects of intranasally administered oxytocin on functional brain connectivity in response to infant laughter. They were presented with a stimulus, an infant's laughter, and while the fMRI was scanning, they were asked to rate the levels of warmth and affection they felt as the infant's laughter was produced. As seen within the whole brain scan analysis, oxytocin levels increased for both the control and experimental groups significantly. These results prove that laughter not only facilitates stronger bonds between parents and their infant, but it increases oxytocin, which has been found to have stress-reducing effects in lactating mothers. Laughter also has great adaptive values through the increase of group advantage, social bonding, increased levels of pain tolerance, and increased mortality through lowered stress. One point of adaptive value, according to researcher Mannanen, has been found that laughter directly aligns with having a group advantage. Spontaneous laughter in the social setting actually has a great effect on social bonding, as it creates a more widespread impact that grooming cannot do. As seen within primate groups, social bonding comes from grooming or touching one another, which, although holds an advantage in bonding, is quite limited. The endogenous opioid release of the opioid receptor that comes from social laughter has been found to support long-term relationships in humans through neurochemical pathways. Laughter is dire for pro-social signals in humans and the opioid system, and has been found to play an important part in mammalian social bonding, as well as pro-social communication. Macaques and chimpanzees would also let out laughter vocalizations when it came to pair bonding information, as well as play behavior. Overall, this wide-scale release of endogenous opioids would allow for humans to live in significantly larger social networks, as laughter easily exceeds the social behavior of grooming as seen in primates. This greater social network means greater group advantage, which infers increased survivability. Laughter also has the ability to increase social bonding through increased levels of oxytocin. As seen from the oxytocin study performed by Rand, infant laughter has been found to increase levels of oxytocin, which in turn facilitates a stronger bond between the parent and infant. As well, fathers who have increased oxytocin levels tend to display a higher rate of stimulatory contact throughout play with their child. Researchers have found that oxytocin may be able to enhance the salience of infant laughter through differing neural circuits, in turn, encouraging sensitive responsiveness to infant laughter. This increase in social bonding also increases survival as it promotes parental care and proximity and motivates the mother-infant attachment by increasing cognitive control over negative emotions. Since laughter has a direct impact on lowered stress, without it, the mortality rate would increase due to the negative impacts it has on our body. Researchers performed a study regarding the biological correlates of stress where they had a total of 38,549 participants between the ages of 25 to 74 years old, and had a comprehensive study regarding the mortality rate from 1987 to 2014 with an average follow-up time of 16 years and 4,310 deaths. Every 5 years, a sample was taken from the population to study potential risk factors alluding to the increase in stress, like smoking, and through multiple imputations for the generated values, logarithms of baseline hazards, and regression models for each risk factor associated, they have found that heavy stress levels take an approximate 3 years off of one's life expectancy. Every risk factor had a significant association with the hazard of death, even when all other biological correlates or underlying health issues were eliminated from the provided samples. Therefore, the production of laughter decreases the amount of stress we have to endure, which in turn has the amazing ability to increase our life expectancy and survival rate. In conclusion, the behavior of laughter causes the biology and is an emotionally driven response to positive stimuli. All humans experience laughter, as well as a select few animals, including primates and rats. Laughter has also been found to activate many neural responses within the brain and has the ability to trigger endogenous opioid release, which in turn regulates pain levels and increases positive emotions. It also has the ability to induce specific hormones like oxytocin, as well as decrease stress hormones like cortisol and dopamine. Laughter also has many adaptive values, including fitness, through social bonds, group advantage, and decreases the mortality rate by lowering stress. Laughter decreases stress hormones such as cortisol and dopamine. Many Americans live in chronically stressed states in which their bodies are constantly producing small to large amounts of these hormones, which can have detrimental health impacts as well as significant healthcare costs. The pandemic has impacted chronic stress levels of many Americans and citizens globally. Understanding the evolution and adaptive value of laughter can elucidate the importance of its benefits to combat stress in our chronically stressed society, thereby influencing health outcomes. Scientists and healthcare professionals can use studies such as those provided in my presentation to implement productive, healthy practices for individuals suffering from the ill effects of stress. And that's it.
Great job, Jessica. Thank you for letting us know that we should be laughing more. It doesn't hurt to be reminded, and it has many benefits. So thank you for that. And I learned so many interesting facts along the way. So thank you. We're going to now open up the Q&A. I'll let you kind of facilitate it. Jump on in. Let's make it a conversation. Obviously, we won't talk over each other, but anyone that has a question, feel free to jump in. I have a few myself, but I'll open it up to everybody first.
Elisa?
Since laughter yoga has benefits, isn't laughter yoga implementing fake laughter? So would that imply that fake laughter also has benefits like real laughter does?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fake laughter actually does have benefits. Any sort of laughter, which I thought was really interesting. Before I focused on spontaneous laughter, my research focused on all types of laughter, and even just forcing out fake laughter every single day can have benefits, but spontaneous and real laughter that's not forced has a higher, I guess, benefit rate. David?
Yeah, hi, that was great.
Thank you.
I never realized there was so much to laughter. But it's good. Well, you have to be careful how you answer this one. I'm a senior citizen, your research confirmed that we laugh less. Do you have any reasons, thoughts why that might be, that laughter declines with age?
Well, one of the really interesting concepts for laughter decreasing with age was older populations going to sleep earlier. And since a lot of laughter is induced within a social setting, and the younger populations like to stay up and hang out with friends later at night, that's pretty much one of the biggest reasons why it decreases with age. But yeah.
Okay, I need to stay up later. Thanks.
Jessica, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you said that laughter has a very positive impact, such as decreasing stress and improving social bonds. I was wondering if you read anything about like negative effects of laughter or any studies with that, if there are any.
No, but it might. So laughter causes muscle weakness, and there might be some negative impacts when it comes to adaptive values, because obviously weakness isn't something, weakness can be good, obviously, but my focus was mostly on the positive effects of laughter, and there wasn't that many negative effects, but I could see there being some with muscle weakness, but other than that, no.
Yeah, I just wonder. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Jesse?
Yeah.
If you were to spend a lot of time with a parrot and say you were laughing a lot, and that parrot started mimicking you, would that be considered laughter?
That is such an interesting question. And I was thinking about that because technically it might, obviously it's not true laughter, because actually, you know what? That's very interesting, because if they're forcing laughter, I wonder what the benefits would be, because forced laughter does have some of the same impacts as true laughter. But I am not too sure. I'm not very well versed within that area, but since only primates and rats have been found to laugh, I'm gonna say no, but definitely more research within that area. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Jessica? I'll ask one more, but what made you interested in pursuing this research?
Goodness. I think one of the biggest things is that everyone laughs, or hopefully everyone laughs, and there's so many basic mechanisms that we perform. And it's interesting because every day before doing this research, whenever I would laugh, I never sat there and went, how does this benefit me? Or is there any part of adaptive value that could help me or could hurt me? And so that was the main part of just researching laughter, because it's so interesting and you don't realize how complex these somewhat basic mechanisms are in our life.
Definitely. And now we know that laughing can actually make you live longer because you're avoiding stress. So everyone just fake laugh every now and then. All right. Thank you so much, Jessica. I'll leave it open for a few more minutes if we have any more questions.
I have a question. Did you read anything where they compared the effects of if you're the only person laughing in a room versus if you're the only person not laughing? Like, I know if I'm in a room and everyone else is laughing, I can have a good time. But if I'm the only person laughing, I start to feel nervous.
Yeah, my area of study I didn't find any studies regarding that, but I do know that social laughter it triggers like a widespread amount of laughter and has a positive impact on everyone. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that one.
All right. No worries. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful presentation. I know we all learned a few new tips and information about laughter, so thank you for that, and great job in your Q&A. We really appreciate it. Now we will move on to our next presenter. So I'll be introducing Elisa DeLeo, and again, mentor Professor Lynn Miller, and the title of her presentation is Starving to Death, the adaptive value of anorexia nervosa. So Alyssa, whenever you're ready, feel free to share your screen and get started.
Have you ever thought about the causes of anorexia nervosa? Maybe you think it's the media. Maybe you think it's self-imposed. The truth is, it's your genetics. Today, I'll be discussing the causes of anorexia nervosa, which include genetics and premorbid anxiety. Additionally, characteristics associated with AN have been shown to have adaptive evolutionary value. Anorexia nervosa, often abbreviated as AN, is the sixth leading cause of death. One of them being all mental disorders and two of them being other eating disorder related causes. Eating disorders are typically diagnosed by the Eating Disorder Examination Questionnaire, also known as the EDEQ, which is shown to the left. Another popular diagnosis criteria is the DSM-5. This is the typical format of the EDEQ and the DSM-5. AN is a disorder characterized by an intense fear of weight gain and a morbid fear of fatness. AN individuals often deliberately try to limit the amount of food they eat to influence their body shape, often with the aim of having a flat stomach. The actions taken by AN individuals often make it difficult for them to concentrate on other tasks due to preoccupation with calories and other food-related consumption ideas. AN individuals tend to have restrictive food rules, such as exclusion of foods from the diet and food rules, such as calorie limits. They tend to go for long periods of time without eating. This morbid fear of fatness is followed by a refusal to maintain a normal body weight for the individual's age, sex, developmental trajectory, and physical health. It is lastly characterized by having a fear of losing control over eating. Postmenarcheal means that the female has begun having periods. In postmenarcheal females, amenorrhea, the absence of at least 3 consecutive menstrual cycles, is one of the best telltales of eating disorders to physicians because amenorrhea is a symptom of restrictive eating behaviors. And individuals with AN also often experience distorted body image, a disturbance in the way in which one's body weight or shape is experienced. This often leads to the denial of the seriousness of the current body weight because the individual isn't able to see themselves the way that they actually are. The BMI chart is typically used by physicians to diagnose the severity of illness because low weight is the output of the severity of eating disorder behaviors. BMI takes into account height and weight. Any BMI 18.5 or lower is considered underweight. There is huge gender inequality in the amount of people that are diagnosed with anorexia. Out of every 10 people that are diagnosed with AN, only 1 is male. Eating disorders are prevalent worldwide, although their increase in non-Western countries is highly attributable to urbanization and Westernization. Studies conducted by Gorel and colleagues in Malaysia, Taiwan, and other developing countries indicate that over time, specifically as individuals begin to use more Western technology, rates of eating disorders increase. AN onsets most frequently during adolescence. Those with AN have lifelong characteristics such as negative emotionality, anxiety, and flexibility, the tendency to avoid uncertainty, and perfectionism. Genetics are one of the main causes of anorexia nervosa. This is proven by twin and adoption studies, which are some of the most reliable methods for verifying the heritability of diseases and disorders. Heritability is the degree of variation in visible characteristics that determine whether a trait will be passed on. In a twin study conducted by Bulick, a large group of Swedish twins that included 31,406 participants was evaluated on the basis of the DSM-5 criteria by clinical interview, a registry discharge diagnosis of AN, or a death certificate with AN diagnosis. Based on the data that they received from these individuals via telephone interview, they were able to receive data on the prevalence, heritability, and risk factors of AN. The median age of the sample was 54.6 years old and had a slight female predominance of 50.6%. To establish reliability, the researchers selected 105 individual twins at random and re-interviewed them within 2 weeks. The overall prevalence was concluded to be 1.2% in females and 0.29% in males. It was found that 59% of the time, anorexia was found to be a direct cause of genetic factors. This means that it is more likely than not that an individual with anorexia inherited their disorder. Still don't believe it? Maybe you think these twins just shared a similar environment that just led them both to develop eating disorders. Or maybe you think this happened by chance, despite the obnoxiously large sample size. Not only, again, do adoption studies prove that anorexia is highly heritable, they also establish a difference between environmental factors and genetic factors. Although adoptive twins still share the same environment, they share different genetics, which allows them to differentiate between the potential causes of eating disorders. Klump and colleagues decided to conduct the first adoption study on eating disorders. The sample included all female-to-female pairs with 123 adoptive sibling pairs and 56 biological sibling pairs and their parents. The median age of the sample was 18.7 years old, with a range of 14 to 24 years old. This study was designed to differentiate between the genetic and the environmental impacts of eating disorders. Genetics were implicated in the cause of eating disorders if biological relatives were more highly correlated for a disease or disorder. Shared environment was implicated in the cause of eating disorders if adoptive relatives were more correlated for a trait or disorder. The Minnesota Eating Behavior Survey was used to examine eating disorders in this study. The MEBS is a 30-item questionnaire that scores body dissatisfaction, drive for thinness, and disordered eating behaviors, and other items related to AN. Results indicate that genetics influence 59 to 82% of all eating disorder symptoms, which is even higher than the last twin study. In conclusion, anorexia is a highly heritable disorder, which is proven by both the twin and adoption studies. Typically, in adoption studies, the rates of heritability are lower due to the added value of comparative genetics, but surprisingly, in this study, the rates came out even higher than the twin study. This proves that anorexia is more caused by genetics and has less cause attributable to environmental factors. Neurobiology is the study of the nervous system, which is a complex network of cells that send signals to the various parts of the body. Anxiety typically begins in adolescence. Comorbid anxiety disorders occur at a frequency of up to 50% in those diagnosed with AN. In a genome-wide association study conducted by Devlin and colleagues, covariates or characteristics of the subjects were applied, such as drive for thinness and obsessionality. The study included 192 family trios. The results indicated statistically significant evidence that differences in the genome in AN individuals versus healthy controls. There were variations on chromosomes 1, 2, and 12, serotonin 1D receptor, and the delta opioid receptor. It is unknown how all these variants play a role in the pathophysiology of AN, except for the serotonin receptor. Serotonin plays a role in altered satiety, impulse control, and mood. The variants posed on the serotonin system cause increased anxiety in recovered individuals and decreased anxiety in ill individuals due to the reduced anxiety that comes with food restriction in AN. Drive for thinness and obsessionality, in combination with restricted food intake and pre-existing anxiety, cause reduced anxiety because restricted food intake provides a sense of control in the individual with AN. Intersexual competition is defined as competition between members of the same sex. Intersexual competition occurs in both males and females, although there are stark differences in the behavioral expressions of it between the two sexes. Males intersexually compete on the basis of display of resources, dominance, and status, while females intersexually compete on the basis of self-promotion, which includes diminishing rivals and displays of attractiveness. Eating disorders are far more prevalent in females because displays of attractiveness are the first line of defense when it comes to mating strategies in women. In most primate societies, it is the males that compete for the females. Although, as social organization moves towards monogamy, both the females and the males begin to compete. The sexual competition hypothesis entails that throughout evolutionary history, the female body has been a good indicator of reproductive history. Thus, body shape is a telltale of reproductive potential. This takes into account that a human can only produce so many babies in one's lifetime. So evolutionarily, a male mate would desire a female with the capacity to produce a high quantity of offspring. In affluent societies, thinness has become associated with youthfulness, which further explains why anorexia is so prevalent in affluent industrialized regions. Furthermore, in large cities, there is a higher rate of perceived intersexual competition due to the higher exposure to attractive individuals. Additionally, media plays a role in EDs and westernized cultures because it allows more exposure to society's most desirable females, which further increases perceived intersexual competition. In a study conducted by Margraf, 69 women aged 18 to 30 years old, 20 diagnosed with bulimia nervosa, 20 diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, and 29 healthy age-matched controls responded to multiple questionnaires pertaining to personality traits, eating disorder behaviors, and level of intersexual competitiveness. Results indicated that disordered eating behavior is directly and significantly related to increases in intersexual competition by 40%. This means that 40% of individuals that are classified as highly intersexually competitive are anorexic, which is just completely nuts. In sum, AN is the result of a successful, although exaggerated mating strategy. It is successful because being thin and attractive attracts many quality male mates. When it is taken too far, it can cause eating disorder behaviors and illnesses such as AN, which have serious physical and mental ramifications. Those with the traits that make them intersexually competitive are susceptible to AN. Thus, characteristics associated with AN have adaptive evolutionary value as long as they are not taken too far. AN is a severe psychiatric disorder with high mortality rates that's characterized by a severe fear of weight gain. AN is heritable 59 to 82% of the time. Thus, in the genetic package come perfectionism and highly intersexually competitive tendencies. Being highly intersexually competitive is beneficial to fitness because it attracts more high-quality mates, thus increasing the overall fitness of the woman. Alterations in the serotonergic system are genetically inherited. These alterations include increases in serotonin, which increase anxiety. These are coped with via eating disorder behaviors, which end up decreasing overall anxiety. Why should you care? Relapse rates fall between 35 and 41% with the current treatments available. 3.3 million people die as a direct result of an eating disorder each year. 1 out of every 10 people with anorexia dies, with a mortality rate of 10%. The current treatments and medications don't provide good chances for those with anorexia's survival. The research that I've mentioned in my study makes it easier for scientists to come up with new treatments and medications that make their survival more likely. I know that I certainly have suffered with this disorder, and you may know someone that does too. A cousin, a sister, a friend, anyone that may suffer from anorexia or any other of the various eating disorders. These studies make it easier for their survival to happen. Thank you. Okay, I'm ready for the Q&A.
All right, thank you for that insightful presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Type them in the chat or just raise the hand or anything. Niall?
Go ahead, Niall.
Great presentation, Elisa. And I just wanted to ask if there are certain environmental factors which may trigger the onset of anorexia nervosa.
Like I said, it's just kind of about the need to intersexually compete. So if you have a higher perception of there being like other members competing in your same sex, like for example, like media can be an external factor, or just like an exposure to other people that you find attractive, it increases the need to compete. So that in itself isn't an environmental factor that would impact it. But without the genetics backing up your predisposition to develop the disorder, you probably won't develop it. Because lots of people look for mates, lots of people try to lose weight, but only so many of them, I think it was 1.2% in females and 0.29% in males, develop this disorder. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, hi. No, that was an awesome presentation. Just learned a lot out of it. Sort of what I read up, or a lot of people attribute, I did this because my cousin has bulimia, attribute it to trauma as well. Did you ever find any of that in your research, that there was some traumatic effect that brought about this? Or
I actually did not. I think I read a little bit on it, but that's definitely something I've seen a lot in my current experience, because I actually went through anorexia myself and I met people with all types of eating disorders. Most of them did have some kind of trauma backed up by that, but I didn't really find any scientific evidence for that in my research, which is actually really interesting now that I think about it. Thanks for bringing that up.
No, it is, because this puts a biological basis to it, and a rational basis, rather than just saying trauma, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely something about it that triggers the predisposition. I think like it has to happen at a young age though, because that really like primes you to become and develop certain characteristics that make you susceptible to the disorder.
Thanks.
I believe Jessica had a question.
Hi, I was just wondering, is our generation and forthcoming generations, are there supposed to be like an expected increase in eating disorders because of the media?
Yeah, certainly. Because the increased need to intersexually compete, it's just it completely morphs our image of what people actually look like, the media. So if you're just like scrolling through your phone all day and seeing these pictures of extremely attractive women, which are often photoshopped, it just makes you feel like you need to look that way. And the first response in most women is to lose weight.
Thank you.
I think we have one more question. Apologies, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but go ahead.
Okay, I thought it was kind of ironic on how it increases fitness, because fitness, it's supposed to show or be successful in reproducing, and having this disorder has a lot of harmful effects, like increased anxiety and not consuming enough calories for the body, to reproduce. So I wanted to see how that works.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of ironic, but it is the characteristics associated with it and not the disorder itself that have adaptive value. So those that have the characteristics that predispose them to the disorder, but they don't take it as far as to developing the disorder, are more intersexually competitive, which is good for fitness. But it is definitely very ironic in the fact that if you do go as far to develop the disorder, is that you're not even able to produce children anymore because your body fat is too low to produce kids. So it's definitely like a two-sided coin. Like yeah, so the characteristics themselves are what make it increase fitness, but not the disorder.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any more questions, or should we go to the next presentation?
I didn't have a question, but I just want to say great job and thank you for bringing light to something that obviously, as you said, it's intersexual competition, and with social media in this day and age, we see that competition more. So,
Mhm.
you know, we do see these sort of eating disorders. And thank you for sharing a little bit about your story and educating us on this topic. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, should I introduce the next presentation? Hold on, let me get to it. Our next presentation is by Niall Connolly. Again, under the direction of Dr. Lynn Miller, live presentation with Q&A, the secrets of listening to music. So does he have sharing permissions to the, there we go.
Have you ever had the experience of driving home or listening to music and suddenly experiencing a sudden chill or overwhelming feeling of sadness? This is due to the many biological components which are affected by listening to music. Listening to music has profound effects on human physiology and has a wide range of social benefits. Music can be defined broadly as a collection of sounds, but it's also a means of self-expression. And music is present in all known human societies. And there are many thousands of different forms of cultural styles of music. Some are more popular than others. For example, flamenco style from Spain, or gamelan style, which is a percussive style from Indonesia. And all ages engage in music, but different ages engage in music for different reasons. For example, adults mainly listen to music for the purpose of mood regulation, but even newborns can show limbic responses to music. I'd like to walk through some of the biological correlates of listening to music, and we'll start with hormones which are affected by listening to music. And the first hormone which is affected is cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And higher levels of cortisol are associated with higher levels of stress, where lower levels are associated with lower levels of stress. And the next hormone is oxytocin, which is related to social bonding and increased levels of trust. And lastly is testosterone, which is related to sex drive and levels of aggression. Now I'd like to walk through a few studies which demonstrate the effects of different types of music on these hormones. And this study focuses on, it involves 24 male university students, and saliva samples were taken to measure cortisol levels before and after a stressful event. And the stressful event was induced by what's known as the Trier social stress test, which is basically a test which is, it involves having participants undergo an interview and a series of stressful tasks, which are basically used to increase cortisol levels. And as can be seen by the graph, the cortisol levels in both the music listening and silence group increased after the stress test, but cortisol levels in the group listening to music immediately decreased, whereas cortisol levels in the silence group continued to increase after the stressful event. And this indicates that listening to music after a stressful event can be more effective in reducing cortisol levels compared to sitting in silence. The next study focused on the changes in testosterone in males as well as females to different types of music. And this study involved 70 college students with an even number of males and females. And again, saliva samples were taken to measure testosterone levels. The graph here shows first the males testosterone levels before and after listening to music. And in all listening conditions, testosterone levels decrease significantly in males, and most significantly when listening to their favorite music, whereas in females, testosterone levels increased in all listening conditions. And it's mentioned that decreases in testosterone levels as a result of listening to music may have been beneficial to increase group cohesion in humans and to reduce sexual tension between males. And now I'd like to walk through a study which demonstrates the changes in oxytocin in response to relaxing music. And this study involved 26 males, and females were excluded from the study to avoid skew in data due to the menstrual cycle. And again, salivary samples were collected to measure oxytocin levels. And as can be seen by the graph here, the blue bars represent oxytocin levels before listening to music, and the pink bars represent oxytocin levels after listening to music. And the specific music was piano pieces by Chopin, and this were also included a slow tempo version, which is basically a slow paced, as well as a fast tempo version, which is a fast pace. And it was found that oxytocin levels rose roughly 25% after listening to the slow tempo, but stayed roughly the same after listening to the fast tempo pieces. And now I'd like to walk through the brain structures which are involved in listening to music. And one of the main structures which is involved is the mesolimbic pathway, which is otherwise known as the reward pathway. And this includes structures such as the nucleus accumbens, which is related to the processing of rewarding and emotional stimuli, as well as the ventral tegmental area, which is involved in the release of dopamine and transfer to different areas. And also the hypothalamus, which is involved in autonomic responses such as, such as heart rate and respiration. Other main brain structures which are involved are the paralimbic structures, which are involved in processing emotional stimuli, as well as neocortical regions, which are involved in sensory perception, as well as other higher order functions. And one study which demonstrates the brain responses to music utilized fMRI imaging, which is functional magnetic resonance imaging, and basically measures different parts of the brain and can basically measure activity and how it changes in various parts of the brain. And this study involved 13 participants, and significant activations were recorded in the nucleus accumbens, as well as the ventral tegmental area. And these areas were highly correlated, so as when one area was activated in response to listening to music, the other area was also activated. And this suggests that listening to music, the reward pathway plays an important role in processing pleasurable stimuli such as music. Another study focused on the responses to pleasant versus unpleasant music. And this study utilized 10 participants and used PET scans, which are positron emission technology, which is, positron emission tomography, which are used to measure physiological changes. And the participants also listened to consonants as well as dissonant music. And consonant music is basically music in which the notes are in harmony with one another, and dissonant music is where the notes lack structure, they're not in harmony. And participants were also asked to rate their the levels of pleasantness for the two types of music. And it was found that participants generally rated the lower dissonance as being more pleasant, And as dissonance increased, so the notes became more unstructured, the ratings of pleasantness decreased. And significant activations were recorded in the paralimbic structures, as well as the neocortical regions, which are involved in emotional processing as well as sensory perception. Music has been a very important part of culture for thousands of years, and there's evidence of musical instruments dating back as far as 80,000 years ago. But it's possible that music was present even earlier, with the voice being used as an instrument. And this is a very interesting find from a site in France, which is a Neanderthal site. And it's basically a bird, a bone of a bird, which was constructed into a flute, and it can be seen by these holes representing the flute. And these incisions on the side are actually decorations, which were very common. And this particular flute dates back to about 30,000 years ago. Listening to music has many different advantages, and mainly due to the effects on hormones as well as the effects on brain structures. And one of the most important advantages is that of social bonding, which is facilitated by the release of oxytocin when listening to music in groups, as well as a decrease in testosterone levels in males when listening to music. And this would have provided cooperation and less conflict for our distant ancestors, and would have allowed for an easier transition towards a larger group living. One of the survival aspects of listening to music can be demonstrated by the Mequonoti Indians, who are native in Brazil. And what they would do is sing in the very late hours in the night. And it's thought that this is done to ward off potential attacks from other tribes. So basically, music has many different functions and can be used in many different ways, depending on the culture. Another one of the main advantages is mood regulation and the ability to process emotions, as well as reduce feelings of anxiety or nervousness. Another possibility is the treatment of neurological and psychiatric disorders, because many areas of the brain which are affected by music are also involved in certain neurological and psychiatric disorders. So it's possible that certain types of music can be used to facilitate the treatment of these. And to conclude, the hormonal effects of music give way to social bonding, as well as reduction in stress levels, and the effects on the various brain structures allow for emotional processing as well as mood regulation. And there's a very wide range of social and individual benefits of listening to music, and it facilitates very important bonding aspects, which drives human society forward. And be happy to answer any questions now. Thank you for listening.
Great job, Niall. And again, thank you for, I like how in OMNI, a lot of times it's a simple topic like music or laughter, and then we get to learn so much more about it. So thank you for that. And like you said, we'll open up the Q&A if you want to stop sharing your screen so then we could see everyone. That'd be great. And again, you know how it goes. Pick on whoever you'd like. If you have a question, jump on in.
Alyssa?
Do you know why music affects testosterone and what the effects of that are?
Well, It's actually not completely clear why it affects it, but the main effects in males are a decrease in aggression, as well as increased cohesion among groups because the reduction in sexual tension between males. What's not exactly clear is the increase in females. There wasn't much information on that, but I'd be very interested to learn more about it. But I can't really give an accurate answer to that question.
Good job on the presentation, by the way.
Thank you. Jesse?
Does the volume of the music correlate to heighten or decrease impacts, or does it not really matter as long as it has a soft tempo?
The main aspects actually, the volume of the music does play a role, but also the speed of the music as well as the pitch. And generally louder music will bring about increases in cortisol level, which would bring about, which is an increase in stress level, whereas softer and quieter and perhaps more relaxing music would bring about a decrease in cortisol levels.
I believe I saw David and Luke both have questions.
Please.
I'll just ask really fast. I don't know if this was anything you like studied on, but did you read anything about the effects of babies listening to music in the womb? Because I know that's like a common thing for people to do.
Unfortunately, that wasn't a part of the research, but certainly it's clear that babies and certainly newborns show responses to music. So clearly there must be some effects there, but unfortunately I don't have more information to share with you on that. David.
Yeah, hi. No, that was great. Thank you. I was intrigued by the oxytocin results, where it increases with slow music, but not fast music. Do you have any thoughts on that, or are there any rationale for that?
There wasn't actually a completely clear explanation as to why it didn't increase in response to fast tempo music. It could just be that relaxing music is more effective in increasing the oxytocin levels. But it also should be noted that this study was done with individuals and not in groups, whereas if it was done in groups, there likely would have been greater increases in oxytocin levels due to the shared experience and being involved with others.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Were there any more questions for Niall? All right, well, great job, Niall. Again, thank you for that and educating us on all these little topics. So thank you to everyone. Before we wrap up, because I believe, as we heard a little bit in the beginning, our final presenters, unfortunately unable to join us today, I just wanted to insert something into the chat. It's called our commentary form. So if you've attended other OMNI presentations, you may have seen it. This form is very useful for the presenters. If you don't mind, everyone in the audience, if you liked a presentation or maybe want to give a presenter some feedbacks, this is the form to do it in. It definitely helps them when it comes to later projects and research. So feel free to give them some feedback through that commentary form. I just sent the link, so I hope everyone got it. But if not, thank you so much to the presenters and everyone in the audience. I'm going to pass it over to Professor Sleeper if he has any final words. No, that's.
There we go.
Okay.
I just want to say, I'm always impressed. I have learned a lot as a father of a teenage daughter. I, again, am amazed by the information that is dispensed here that I need to be aware of. And I've learned so much also from the other presenters. Niall, I think you've been a rock star. One of the great surprises of this conference with both your questions and your presentations. But also, I just want to commend all of these students, how poised and polished you are, not only in your presentations, but how you respond to your answer in your answers. I am just amazed. I cannot speak very well. I wish I could do public speaking better. It would have been fantastic in my career, but the skill that you have in answering questions is fantastic. Keep practicing, keep working on that, keep going through the conference process and involving yourself in those, because I think it's going to be critically important to keep nurturing and developing those skills. But Alyssa, Jessica, and Niall, I was just super impressed. It demonstrates the hard work and attention that you put into this presentation. It really showed off. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we have our last session starting at 10:30, and that will be the final session of the spring OMNI. But again, thank you for those presenters. If you can come back, we're just gonna be hanging out here, but you're welcome to drop out and then come back in at 10:30 and we'll finish up at that time. So again, thank you for all those presentations today, and enjoy this end to your semester. Thank you.
Great job, everyone.